MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. And I don't know if you remember, recently we had Oksana Khimych. She was the founder, or is the founder, of Simple AF. She's a brand communication expert. And we've asked her back into studio to talk about a problem that I see with entrepreneurs all the time. And that is that do not discern when they are pitching to their clients and pitching for funding or pitching to investors. So I've asked her to come back into studio and to talk to us about the difference between the two to ensure that we're not confusing our audience. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so just in essence, the difference between pitching to investors and pitching to clients.
Difference of pitching to investors and pitching to clients would be, to clients, you want to sell your product. Mm-hmm. Pitching to investors, you want to sell yourself and your business.
And I like the order: yourself first and then the business.
As you know, that investors invest not only in the business, but in the founder as well. It doesn't help to have a good horse and no jockey to drive it. So that's what difference would be, and that's how you would adjust your presentation to talk specifically to your audience.
The last time you were here, we spoke about the branding versus marketing and talking about the brand of the company. Is it as important when pitching to the investor to still maintain your brand in the presentation deck?
Investor is a human with experience who's seen hundreds, maybe thousands of pitch decks. And when you are dressed well, you represent yourself professionally. When you put effort into creating your presentation professionally, it looks good. It talks to the audience. It talks to investor. There is a certain level of respect that just goes up a notch. Mm-hmm. Although, if content is nothing, form is not going to help over content. Yeah. But if you have good case in your slides, if you have good content, and it on top of that looks professional and attractive, memorable, then definitely it helps to sway, if not sway, at least grab the interest of investor.
I'm going to share with you a weird story from 100 years ago. And it's a story about when salespeople used to do presentations with slides, when they used to have one of those slide machines with the light shining through it on the wall. And I actually went to be taught how to present at that point, and they told us to take a slide and turn it upside down, and then go, oops, I'm sorry, and put it back in the right order. And the reason why they said you should do that is for two reasons. Number one, it makes sure that your presentation is not too slick, because if it's too slick, it feels over-processed and done for everyone. It's over-rehearsed and shows a humanness to it. And number two, it changes the energy in the room. Okay. Tell me if that is still valid today in your opinion.
Absolutely. It is. And like you said, when the slide is upside down, it's sort of like, oops, It wakes you up.
So is there not a too slick, too perfect? Is there when that presentation just looks like it was done in a world-class advertising agency's studio? Is it? Can you go too far?
I don't think you can go too far. You should be proud of your appearance. Your presentation is your appearance. You don't need to spend thousands and hundreds of thousands on world-class agency, but you need to present yourself properly. There can be nothing too sleek and too pleasing, aesthetically pleasing, in my opinion.
Let's come back to the investor versus the client. So we've spoken about the presentation, one focused on product, one focused on me, and by the business into my business. The use of graphics in the investor pitch, graphs, history, those kinds of things? More important, the same as less important?
We have to remember that for investors, they want your pitch deck to be as short as possible. We need to spark interest. We don't need to put tables and financial year-end reports in there. And use of graphics is very important to deliver maybe complicated data and numbers. We would use infographics. I would not put too much of imagery, just unrelated imagery, but I would definitely put a product image, which should be done, it's non-negotiable, it should be done professionally. The product image shot in best light possible. If it is a tech solution or it is something digital, put it into mock-up screen and have it on the screen. Psychological trick as well, put that phone or a computer into a hand. It triggers something, it makes it more human.
Last question for you is around whether people read your presentation or not. How do I know if I send my presentation out? How will I know if they're actually reading it or not? Is there a way that I can tell?
Absolutely. There are services on email services that will allow you firstly to see if your email was open, if the attachment or a link was clicked. You can track all of that, use that analytics and tech to understand how your, firstly, body of the email appeals, subject of the email appeals to the recipient, and how many of them are actually clicking and how many of them are staying. One of those tools would be docsend.com. What is so cool about it is actually you can see if the presentation was open, you can see how many seconds or minutes a person spent on each slide. And according to that, you will decide, all right, so this slide they just flipped through, and this slide they actually stopped and it piqued their interest. And you go and you adjust your presentation according to that to see how I can make, and if that slide was important but it was skipped through, how can I adjust that slide to be a little bit more engaging.
Oksana, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for your insights, and I hope you learned as much as I did. Stay tuned. We'll be right back straight after this.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.